The garden, as God's handiwork, is a rich source of inspiration, because in it we encounter God, the Creator, in creation. The basis for understanding the Mary garden is, through symbolism, to discover its devotional meaning. As we resurrect our ties with the natural world, we become more open to receive the divine, which is constantly at work in the rhythm of nature and in us.
If you're looking for plants with biblical overtones, indeed you will find quite a selection, such as Solomon's seal, Jacob's ladder, Trinity flower, Christ's thorn, and others. However, if you're looking for flowers with connections to Mary or Our Lady, they are so numerous that you will be able to plant an entire Mary garden. Early Christian gardeners so loved the Virgin Mary that, being moved to reflect upon her life, attributes, and mysteries, they saw her image in plants. So religion and popular culture clothed the Virgin in the glories of countryside flowers and christened them to reflect the service they offered her, as suggested by the plant's form, color, and season of bloom. There are literally hundreds of Mary flowers, many of them like children begging for attention. Here am I, some of them say, "Look at me, I am beautiful," and so they are.
The lily, Mary's chastity. The iris, Mary's royalty. The pansy, Mary's delight in the Trinity. The rose, Mary's divine love. The snowdrop, hope and consolation. The carnation, pure love. Columbine, innocence. Chrysanthemum, Mary's virginity. And the violet, Mary's humility. St. Louis de Montfort says that Mary is the paradise of God and his unspeakable world, into which the Son has come to work wonders, to watch over, and to take delight in it. Church Fathers hailed her as the singular garden of God, blossoming with virtues. For St. Bernard, she is the rose of charity, the lily of chastity, and the golden gilliflower of heaven.
The flower imagery of Mary, with origins in the wisdom and the prophetic books of the Bible, has a long Christian tradition. A garden imagery of Mary in the writings of the Church Fathers reads like a classical florilegium. She is called
burning bush unconsumed,
Pray for us.
cloud raining upon the earth,
Pray for us.
flower of the field,
Pray for us.
fruitful olive tree,
Pray for us.
garden of the Father,
Pray for us.
most holy paradise of Eden,
Pray for us.
royal virgin of David's rose,
Pray for us.
rose plant in Jerusalem,
Pray for us.
blossoming rod of Aaron.
Pray for us. Besides being tenderly depicted as the blossoming rod, Mary is herself the enclosed garden. that virginal garden in which Christ, the tree of life, was planted. This Marian interpretation is a key to the understanding of Mary gardens and symbolic flowers, because it sees the garden as the Virgin herself. She is also the symbol of the Church, which, in its turn, is seen as the bride of Christ, and hence the model for each believer.
Since the beginning of time, no flower has been so loved, so revered and admired as the rose. It is older than the artistic hands that drew pictures of it, or the first gardeners that cared for it. Saint Ambrose, one of the early church fathers, relates that the rose was once a flower in paradise. After the banishment of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, the rose took on its thorns as a reminder of original sin. Its beauty, however, is a fragrant memory of the splendor of paradise. The Church Fathers dub Mary as the mystical rose when they say, "The Virgin is born in the midst of the thorns of iniquity, coming forth as the rising dawn, fair as the moon and bright as the sun."
Long before the birth of Christ, the rose had preoccupied human imagination. It is depicted on frescoes dating back to 1600 BC and on fossils dating back 35 million years. It has inspired ancient paintings on the walls of Crete and in Egypt. Architectural roses flourished in the ruins of the Assyrian and Babylonian civilizations. Eventually, through the 15th century, roses became the theme of many Marian icons and altarpieces. A 15th century hymnal, Hours of the Virgin, depicts the rosary in pink and red roses, while a 16th century hymnal shows the Virgin Mary holding a rose.
Early Christians were quick to adopt the rose as the flower of the Virgin Mary, giving it a range of meanings to identify Our Lady's attributes. Mary is the mystical rose in the Litany of Loreto. Early church fathers referred to her as the rose of modesty and the rose among thorns. In Latin hymns and sequences, she is called fragrant rose, noble rose, rose of heaven, rose of love. Besides representing the flower itself, the Virgin is depicted as a rose garden. Mary is the mystical rose in which the Word was made flesh. In medieval devotional writings, the rose garden was also known as the Garden of Incarnation. This is why, in Christian tradition, the rose stands not only for Mary, but also for Christ. A familiar 16th century Advent hymn called "Lo, How a Rose Here Blooming" relates that both Mary and her Son are roses that sprang from the tree of Jesse. Accordingly, paintings and sculptures from the 13th and 14th centuries place Mary in an enclosed garden of roses, sometimes